Hi, I'm Gary Harris, and I'm an owner of a insurance and financial service business, and I have been a partner with Cornerstone for over 5 years. And today I get the opportunity to host a webinar, and we're going to be talking with the board of directors for the CFN University Education. And we have a great group with us today, over 100 years of experience in education and teaching. So if we can just take a second, I'd love to introduce the Board of Education. We have Bobby Parks, we have Daniel Cunningham, we have Kenny Ulich, and Iris Shepard. So Bobby, if you don't mind, can you take a few seconds and we can work around the group here and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Gary, it's good to be here today. Dan and I come from Oklahoma. We have an office there for Cornerstone. We run that together, and our families and our kids and all of our activities keep us busy there. And I've lived there my entire life.
I'm Dan Cunningham. I've been in the industry 40 years and have enjoyed building businesses and helping people build businesses. Spent about 28 years in the management and coaching side in the industry, and have been involved in estate planning and retirement planning, and have been blessed to be around some of the top people in the industry.
Kenny Ulich, I'm from New Orleans originally. Been there my whole life except for college. I've been in the industry for about 18 years now. Most of that time in firm leadership, agent development, things of that nature, in a number of different firms that I've worked with over the past couple of years. Married, 4 children, so when we're not working, we're having fun with them for sure. So,
Iris?
I'm Iris Shepard. I have a PhD in English from the University of Arkansas. I'm a native Arkansan, though my family comes from New Orleans, so we have some connection there. I have 2 grown sons, and I've been teaching my whole adult career, but I've taught middle school through graduate courses, so I'm excited to be working with this incredible board.
We have a lot of experience setting right here, and I just want to jump right in. I think when we talk about education and training, a lot of it is philosophies, and I'd love to hear each one of your thoughts. And Bobby, if you don't mind, you're going to get the hit because you're on the end, and just work our way around if you don't mind.
Well, I'm a big fan of it. I think at a minimum you should be part of the Better Than Nothing plan. But what I've learned is this is an area of your life, it seems like you don't get a greater return. You'll always get the best dividends on the investment you make, what you pour into your head. So if you're not a learner, become a learner. Like I said, start with the Better Than Nothing plan. But if you really want to succeed in any endeavor, you need information. You don't get to be a top surgeon without reading a lot of medical books. Why would our industry be any different? And the truth is, it's not.
I agree with you, Bobby. And one of the things I've noticed in the industry is we do have a lot of knowledge in the industry, but I've been a big believer really in returning proficiency and getting comfortable with language so that you can make it a great experience for the end user, which is our clients. And so I think it's important to practice language skills and returning proficiency so that you can take a client comfortably through, the entire interviewing process. And so every other industry practices, whether you're a professional athlete or you're a surgeon or whatever industry you're in, and so we should be the same and constantly practicing our skill level and working with each other to get better. So, and I know Kenny has the same philosophy in that area.
no, that's good. Yeah, for me, I always think that this industry, at least from a philosophical perspective of development, it's half art and half science. And that's really what I always try to focus on, at least in my own agency, that we can do a really great job of making sure, like Bobby had just now mentioned, about the material, the data that individuals need to be able to have. And then we also have to make sure that they can go out and execute. And that's the art of it. And that's where experience comes in, and some of the other elements like practice and role play is so important. So if I had to distill my philosophy into anything, I'd say it's art and science. And that, I think, also resonates with the way adults typically learn. They learn by doing. Like adults have to, they have to be involved in it and they have to practice it. They can't just be talked at. So when we look at this from a development perspective, it's beyond just education. It's how do we educate and then also begin to form them so they can actually go out, speaking of our advisors, and perform at a high level.
I love what you said. And to just add on to that, it's like you have the knowledge and then you have the skills, but you also have to have that proper mindset, that willingness to be like a lifelong learner. And I always think too, if we could just share with any learner, just that knowledge and in education, it's empowering to learn more and to like be able to apply what you learn and to continue to grow.
Well, it creates confidence too, right? Inside think of a new rep, when they begin to learn something, they learn a skill and they are able to execute that skill and they know something. Their confidence changes, right? They become the competence ends up breeding confidence.
Something you said, Kenny, that I was reading a book recently, and the person pointed out that, for years we all said this. We all said knowledge is power. This person said that's not true. Acting on knowledge is power. So when you take somebody out into the field and you act on that knowledge with them, now you're actually empowering them.
Kenny, a lot of great thoughts on philosophy. One of the things when I think of philosophy, a lot of times there is a lot of influence, people that have impacted my thoughts on the philosophy I have, or groups, or education somewhere. Is there any certain things through your experience that has brought training that you could share with us, that actual experience has brought to your training?
Yeah, so I was an educator for 4 years. I didn't teach for 20 years, but I taught for 4, and I was in the grammar schools and high schools, and I still teach through some service projects that I work on. But I taught for 4 years, and then I got into this industry, and early on in my time in the industry, I became a regional training and development manager for a Fortune 100 firm. And that's really where I began to allow some of the things that I learned teaching to begin to get brought into the classroom when it comes to working with advisors. And that ended up going into a number of different areas, the creation of some advanced planning and some business owner courses that we began to do with experienced advisors. And then every place that I've been, it's always been about making sure that we craft training properly, that we design the program, and we make sure that we're giving our advisors the support that's necessary, and that we're doing the work, that we're working when it comes to role playing, and we're giving them opportunities to work on those proficiencies like we mentioned.
Well, I was just going to say, along those lines, I think one of the things that Cornerstone does so well is customization, because just like what Kenny described, someone who comes to the industry that maybe was a second career person and they haven't ever been in the industry before, needs a different type of coaching and education than someone who maybe has been in the industry for a long time. I've had the privilege of training both types of people, and a lot of times established producers who've been around 20, 30 years say, I'm really good at this, but I don't know how to have a discussion about a different topic. And so many times they're looking for the language of what do I say, how do I say it, who do I say it to, and how do I prepare? And that's why we see mentorship so powerful, where people come together and 1 + 1 equals the proverbial something greater than 2. And so that's really the power, I think, of applying, like Bobby said, applying this knowledge that we have so that you can take it out and make somebody's life better.
Iris, you have a lot of experience setting here. You get to be the leader of the gang. You're kind of heading the board up. How do you plan on leveraging this group to make CFM just become elite at education?
Absolutely, great question. All this experience and vision, I lean on them a lot. One thing I feel that we do well is that we've been able to set the vision and mission for the university, for CFN University, and then being able to say like, okay, how do we make that practical? What are our goals? Being able to look at like specific syllabus and training programs for different individuals and different levels of the career, and then being able to assess the effectiveness of it, to be able to say like, all right, here's our vision, our mission, here's our what we're doing, our execution, and then to being able to look at the effectiveness. So it really helps to have this kind of, I know sometimes like I can get lost in the nitty gritty, but to have this board that keeps this overall vision and being able to see that we're meeting those goals.
Dan, I think one of the things, she's looking for motivated people, obviously, to be on this board, and that's why you're on it. And I'd love to put you on the spot and just say, what makes Dan Cunningham the perfect fit to be part of that and making a difference as they start planning that education and training program?
I think just being approachable so that someone can say, this is what I need. and work with Iris to design it. And we're doing that now. We have people that bring great skill sets, but they need someone to say and kind of do an analysis through questioning, and which I like to do. And that's, tell me what you're good at, tell me what you're not good at, what's your knowledge level, what's your skill level, and get to know people on a comfortable level so that you can be open with each other. Say, I'm really good at this, but I'm not so good at that. Well, how can I help you? And we have incredible resources, whether it be literally hundreds, if not thousands, of videos that are, I call them, they're designed for adults because they're about 4 to 6 minutes long, because most of us, our attention span doesn't go much past that. And it's so valuable to hear, how does this tax attorney describe this idea? How does this CPA say this? How does this advisor say that? And my experience over the years of interviewing advisors is that's what they're looking for. They want someone to interview them, do an assessment, and say, I need this kind of help. And I promise you there's nobody better than Iris at helping us put this together, because she's dealt with young people, and the truth is we don't grow up that much. We need coaching and guidance. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Bobby, I'm sitting there thinking maybe step back a little bit, because you wouldn't be sitting on the board today unless you connected with Cornerstone Financial Network first. So can you tell us what drew you to the Cornerstone initially? And obviously Cornerstone is wanting to leverage your experience to make them even better, but just, what brought you to Cornerstone to begin with?
Well, I think if you're in our industry very long, secretly you're open to opportunities. Because what we would call, I'll call them the big box companies, been around for many, many years. There's some things that they say they do, but they don't always get it done. And that's because when you become a very large organization, it seems natural to just keep bringing in more people and more people and more people and more people. And unfortunately, a lot of times you can create bureaucracy. And one of the things that drew me to Cornerstone is I didn't see bureaucracy in the beginning. My first experience with Cornerstone is shaking the hands and visiting with one of the founders. I got my cell phone, I've got his number. If I have a problem tomorrow with one of the carriers, I can't get something done, I don't have to talk to a middle management person and someone else. I call one of the founders, and it has a grassroots feel. So what you really get to have if you're out there and maybe you're open to opportunities, like a lot of us who've been in the industry a long time were. If you'd like to be a part of something that has the feel of a small business, but has the footprint and the impact of a much larger business, that's what Cornerstone does. And then to go beyond that, there's a lot of reasons. You can't really answer that with one. If you really want to know what an organization's intentions are, you look at their attention. Where are they spending their attention? And it'll tell you their intentions. And from day one, I would say 90% of the conversations I've been involved in, that I've been aware of, the projects that I've been aware of, it's all about developing the advisor. Develop the advisor. What can we do to help the advisor succeed? We're sitting in a studio that I remember 4 years ago when it was part of a vision, and it was all designed to help the advisor grow, help the advisor succeed, because every organization in our industry says this. We succeed when our advisors succeed, but it gets lost when you have bureaucracy. That's really the mentality at Cornerstone. We're sitting here today because the intention can be seen by where the attention was spent. If you want to develop, you want to grow, you want to learn about these interesting topics Dan was talking about that you know nothing about today, you're licensed for. When we get our license, we're kind of dangerous. We have the ability to do a lot of things we don't even understand. So what we need to do is get involved in a program that can help us hone our skills, help us understand, what do I really want to do? Figuring out what you want to do in life can be difficult. Here's a neat question. What makes you feel alive? What makes you feel alive if you're on this board is because you like helping people. You like inspiring people. Educator, 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 working on educating. So if it makes you feel alive to help people, this is a great industry because you can help families, you can help, you can just help anybody. There's nobody at a Starbucks or a McDonald's you can bump into that doesn't already use what we do or needs what we do. So the opportunities are endless, but you need to be somewhere where you can develop and grow, and you can do that here. And there's other reasons. I'm running out of time, but a lot will draw you to Cornerstone. One thing I've noticed, nobody leaves. A lot of people migrate in. I can't name 5 people in the last 5 years that have left. Can you, Dan?
Not one, actually.
Yeah, so
if I can just jump in, I'll say this. I'm kind of the new guy here when it comes to joining Cornerstone. I just came on board and started my firm here a little over a year ago. And everything that Bobby was saying was exactly what I saw when I first came up for a visit and started having conversations with Cornerstone. Because what I was searching for was just that, an opportunity to be able to grow my firm with a firm that understood what I was going through and that hadn't actually stopped or gotten out of my chair, so to speak, that was still involved in advisory, that was still involved in firm growth, and the capacity, not just for growth, but for collaboration, and to be able to work with people that are like-minded. That was something that I was afraid I was going to lose if I went independent. Was, maybe I would have higher payouts, but I wouldn't be able to get the support. I wouldn't be able to have the camaraderie and just the conversations that come along just with people that are sharing the same thing that we're doing, right? We're doing the same thing, and we want to be able to help our advisors, and we have the same struggles, and to be able to share that, and then to be able to come back and to be able to see what we're doing on the educational side, the development side, and to understand that we're all pulling on the same rope. To be able to find ways and find mechanisms to help our advisors become really successful and become real professionals in this industry. So,
Yeah, I was saying thing. Bobby, as you were talking about growth of an advisor, growth. How much importance does training come into play on that?
only about 100%. I mean, you're not born knowing this stuff. We're not born knowing much of anything. Everything we do in life is training. And here's an interesting concept. The way that our mind is built, we're always taking in information. And if we don't intentionally decide what we're going to take in, we're going to have a basket of stuff we couldn't inventory, couldn't explain, and might not be happy with. So in every walk of life, people should be working in an active program of personal development, just to be a better husband, to be a better father, to be a better leader. Boy, do we need leaders, you know. Here's a cool story about the difference between managers. You don't find a lot of managers here, you find a lot of leaders here. You got to go back to the industry leaders. Everybody knows Stephen Covey. What a great treasure. We lost him a few years ago. But he tells a neat story about back in the 1800s. You needed a lot of people. You didn't need bureaucracy, but you need a lot of laborers. He talks about a story in his book, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. They're out there, they're clearing the forest, and they got the machete wielders, and you got I picture these gladiator guys with these great big guns because they can cut a 2-inch tree in half, with one swing. You got the people behind them that their job is to sharpen machetes, keep them going. And all the managers are happy because everybody's busy. And somebody disrupts the whole thing and yells out, "Stop working." And all the managers say, "We're making progress." And the guy says, "Wrong forest." So you need leaders. And as I said earlier, most of the stops you'll have in this industry, there's a whole lot of managers and there's a real lack of leaders. You get leaders here. You have people who have the vision. And they do know, like we said earlier, if I develop my agents, what I need will develop because of their success. And people aren't going to leave. We were talking, I can't name a few people. I've heard Mike Kozart mention. He can't mention 10 people who've left in the last 5 years. This is kind of an oasis for people. So I think I answered your question, or I might have created my own, but.
Iris, as we talk through this, training does not come free. It's an investment. Mm-hmm. And Cornerstone Financial Network is obviously investing right now in training. So as you look at that, what do you see these key components being of being successful with a training program?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So it seems like to really start an effective training program, you have to have a clear objective first. Like you have to know that you're in the right forest and be able to see okay, here's where here's where we need to lean in on our advisors and really help them grow. To have your clear objectives and then high quality content. You need to be able to have a good way of delivering that content, whether you're having in-person sessions or Zoom meetings or a collection of those videos, just being able to see the most effective way of delivering this content. And you need to assess it too. See how are they applying the knowledge again, so it's not just filling up your head and not taking action, but being able to see how are the advisors taking action and applying the knowledge.
I mean, Kenny, when you look at an advisor, what does that mindset have to be? I mean, you have to have a mindset to say education is going to work for me. And when you look at that, what would you tell an advisor?
Well, I think it's been said already, but I would say that there's two facets. The first is to have a growth mindset, and the second to have humility. And when I think about growth mindset, whenever we're talking to an advisor, how often we've sat with somebody and they're like, oh, I can't do networking, I can't use the phone, I can't do this. And they've already built up all these walls, and we've got to help them, we have to be able to help them understand ways that they can begin to grow. And that sometimes you're going to make mistakes, and failure is not doing well at something is not the worst thing in the world. And so for me, I think I try to apply the kind of the Montessori method of learning when I work with a rep. Like, never do for a rep what a rep can do for themselves. And try to empower them to go out there and do it, even if they do it poorly at first, and then give them the opportunity to, okay, what went wrong? How can we coach ourselves through this, and where can we begin to work with them? And I think that leads to a humility, that you just be smart enough to be dumb enough to listen. And just allow yourself the opportunity to realize that other people have great ideas, and that you may actually get something out of it. And whether you're a brand new advisor, you're an experienced managing partner, or you're an experienced agent, I think those two factors, that growth mindset, we can break through and we can move through things that we've struggled with in the past. And often a little dose of humility will go a long way for us to be able to do that.
That's great, Kenny. But Dan and Bobby, you guys have been doing this for so long, y'all don't need training anymore, right? I mean, you don't need more training on being professional in your, what you're doing in your daily work or in your daily life personally. You don't need that anymore, do you?
We do. Years ago I was fortunate. There's a industry leader's name was Ben Feldman, and he's not with us anymore, but he was just a great producer at one time. He was the #1 producer with all companies in the United States. That's a pretty big deal, and he started out as an immigrant in America. And I was lucky enough to get to know him, and I was a young guy, and I remember sitting down front. He sat in the front 2 rows, and he's listening to the speaker, and he's taking copious notes, and so I'm thinking I better take copious notes. And he asked a question of the speaker, and the speaker knew him and said, Ben, why would you ask questions? You could write the book on all this. He said, I didn't know I knew that until I heard you say it again. I had to hear it many times. And I'll never forget that. And so we've kind of adopted that philosophy through our lives. Bobby and I read a lot of books, and we read a lot of them, the same ones. It's just so we can talk about it. So we probably read about 30 books a year, and then we'll read the same book many times. And another gentleman who's a favorite of Bobby's, who is Bob Proctor, and he was a great trainer and educator in the industry. And I'll let you tell this story, Bobby, about Bob Proctor. Go ahead.
Well, I guess it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. It was January, so we're setting goals. What do you do in January? Well, I'm going to read this many books. I'm going to do this. And we stumbled across a guy that was joining us for that, stumbled across a YouTube of Bob Proctor. And we were listening to it, and he said, in the YouTube, he said, for 57 years, I've been reading this same book. And I'm like, what? We're going to read 12 books this year, read 30 books this year. He said, every time I read this book, it's different. The book's not different, but I'm different. I thought, wow, that's deep.
I had read the same book like 20 years prior. So then we started reading the book again, and it's by Napoleon Hill, and it's called Think and Grow Rich. And I start finding all these successful people who have read it over and over and over. And so we've read it probably 7 or 8 times in the last 5 years. And I think there's such a power, and so you can always learn new things no matter how old you are. And I think I learned that spaced repetition is what we all need when we have been in the business for a long time. And we need to go back to the fundamentals and then encourage the people behind us because we won't be here forever. And if you think about the things that all of us have done up here, people up here have chartered financial consultant designations and chartered life underwriter designations and PhDs and all kinds of educational achievements. Well, in my life, it's because someone encouraged me to do that. I didn't usually just wake up and do that. I was encouraged to do it, and someone would ask me how I'm doing. And I think we all need that, no matter who we are. We need encouragement to do those things. And so I'd encourage all of us to be encouragers.
This is one of the benefits I can tell you personally with the years I've been able to spend with Cornerstone is, that's a challenge. What I just heard from you guys is a challenge to me. The book reading, I'm like, 30 books a year. But it's a challenge to say you can put, wherever you put your focus on, you will achieve. And Iris has spent a lot of time with, we're a family business, and Iris has sat down with me and my kids, and we've done studying together, and she's right there with us and been available anytime we need it. Kenny, I've gotten to know Kenny. I love Kenny. And so your next question to you, Kenny, is here I'm sitting with a little bit of experience. There's a lot of people out there with a lot more experience than I do. But I can ask somebody like Kenny, say, Kenny, how can I grow my business? What would you say?
I think whenever I have a conversation with an experienced advisor, and I've said this for years, that one of the main questions that they're always looking for is, are you really going to be there to help support me? Like, are you really going to do the deal? And behind that is what type of systems and processes do you have in place that are going to help me get to where I want to go? And I think that's what we've talked about here today, and some of what we're planning to talk about in the future is elements of joint work, team building, mentorship, and how we can help experienced advisors learn the roles that they want to take on. Because a lot of times they haven't had those experiences yet to know the best practices of being a joint work mentor or being a joint work coach, or whatever the case might be in that realm, or building their own team. Whereas the systems that we're putting together here through Cornerstone University will be able to facilitate that so that they can go out there and execute at a high level and begin to transform their own practices. And that's something that we're beginning to apply certainly at Actis, is we're putting those systems in place for our advisors that are looking to start to grow and their careers in a different way that way.
Iris, I'm looking at you because normally you'd have your little notepad taking notes on stuff, on to-dos, because there's been a lot that we've talked about today. How do you keep this thing focused? As Cornerstone Financial Network and the university piece, how do you keep focused to make sure these great ideas and thoughts can actually be executed and help people like myself?
Sure, absolutely. Great question. I think too, being able to have a regular monthly meeting of the board is huge so that we can realign ourselves with the goals and bring up new ideas. But having a really clearly defined mission statement is huge. So here at Cornerstone, our mission at Cornerstone Financial Network University is to foster the continuous professional development and education of our advisors. We are dedicated to providing the essential knowledge, skills, and resources so that advisors can serve clients competently and with integrity, delivering comprehensive and personalized financial guidance.
So can you expand a little bit on the courses and the things that an advisor can expect to have available to them?
Yeah, absolutely. Building on what the board has said is we do have different courses based on where an advisor comes in. So we have a marketing specific course for new advisors, and that runs about 4 months, and we meet weekly. And then we have a marketing course for more experienced advisors, a little bit more in-depth curriculum and with less of the meeting requirement, so meeting twice a month. We have that library of videos that you talked about through Iris University that you can build like a really specific tailored curriculum based on where advisors are wanting to grow. We have webinars that are focused on specific topics, like we have one coming up in December about joint work that Dan and Bobby are doing. I rely a lot on our subject matter experts and getting them to meet with me over Zoom and train me. I'm working on building my skills. I'm studying for the Series 65, and I hope in 2024 to be able to have a study group for folks that are wanting to get the Series 65 that I can lead because I've been through it recently. I could go on and on. We have a lot in place and a lot that we're building. One thing that we want to really lean in on is being able to have an academy for managing partners so that when new managing partners join us, we can have experts share their experience on practice building. So one thing too that we're working on is instead of we don't want it to just be knowledge, but also that application. So I know with your advisors you do a call clinic. Will you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I know managing partner and somebody that's been in leadership for more than a month, has run call clinics before. It's about, it was in the middle of quarantine that all of a sudden we had this group of advisors and we weren't around them anymore, and we still wanted to make sure that they were meeting on a regular basis. And so we began doing Zoom call clinics on a regular basis, and they actually ended up working a lot better than the old school call clinics when they were in the cubicles and we were running around listening to them on the phone. And so what we do is once a week, we do a 90-minute call clinic, and it gives us the opportunity to break our reps into individual breakout rooms, and then I'm able to just listen in and just kind of jump in and then just go to the next room and just kind of cycle through, make sure they're making their phone calls, listen to their language, listen to the objections that they're getting. And it also allows them to foster some camaraderie, even if they're not in the office together, because they're able to, how many are you going to try to get today? And then, razz one another based on their performances or lack thereof on a regular Wednesday. But I think just to be able to inspect it, just as we've been trained to do, when we're building agencies, is to inspect those activities of the basic activities that they should be doing. So that's something that we're doing regularly now.
Kenny, what you just mentioned reminded me of something. Those guys those ladies and those guys are on the phone because whether they knew it or not, when they got in this business, they're marketers. All this knowledge, all the training is really kind of cool, but it really only helps if you got someone to sit across from at the table and a couple of times a week. And one of the things that we talked earlier about, you really understand the company's intention, where they're focusing their attention. Cornerstone we'd be remiss if we didn't make this point. They will partner with people. If you're out there and you got an open mind, they will partner with people to help them learn how to market, because we're not born knowing how to do that either. And years ago, Dan and I were sitting in on it was a estate planning webinar, and it was a very successful attorney we've known for years. And afterwards, they always did kind of a debrief. And this guy described himself. He said, "I'm a marketer who does estate planning." And I thought, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. This guy's an estate planning attorney. But if you're a dentist, if you're a CPA, if you're an attorney, if you're in insurance, if you are in wealth management, you're a marketer who does this. And Cornerstone will partner with you to help you be across the table from people. They try to kick down the doors. They try to pave the roads to take you places that you probably wouldn't go on your own, because who knows how to do all that?
I would argue it's cutting edge resources that people have dreamed of, and most advisors would like to be able to do some of the things, whether it be a video business card or a high quality website or just ways of communicating to the general public, is second to none at Cornerstone. It would literally cost thousands of dollars to reproduce that. And having worked with a lot of advisors, they may have good intentions, but they never got around to doing those things. And one of the biggest challenges, just like Bobby said, really is marketing. And most advisors would welcome help and ideas in that specific area.
And I'll just say one thing too. Recently, with the RIA, we've actually begun having a weekly clinic with my advisors, just to begin going over the blocking and the tackling of some of the classic marketing tactics that they should be doing, like the strategies and the tactics and the execution. And so what we've been doing is this round robin training for all of my advisors, 1 hour every single week, where they've got to come back and have conversations, not just with me, because sometimes my voice they'll stop listening a little bit, but have somebody else listen. It's true, right? It's true, it's amazing. But to be able to have somebody else here, and I'll say this as a local agency, knowing that there are other people that you can trust to put in the room with your advisors is a tremendous thing. And there are many times that, I was offered things from a home office and we're like, no, really, it's okay. But to be able to have that and know that it's actually transformative in the lives of the reps is tremendous.
Board, thank you all for your time this morning. Iris, big thank you to you. I know you're leading the charge, and we're excited. We're so excited to have Iris at Cornerstone to make a difference in the training program. It's such a huge part of growing individuals. And thank you for joining in today. Please don't forget December 13th. You can hear Bobby and Dan again talk about working in jointly. They've done it for years, and these guys can give you a great word on that. So hope you'll join us on December 13th. Have a blessed day.